Good morning, students. Moving on to module 4, that is about dynamic programming. So, to tell you about dynamic programming, again, it is one of the algorithm design technique, okay, which is quite similar to divide and conquer. Quite similar, but not the same. But not the same. It is similar. Okay, let's see today the introduction to the dynamic programming. So the agenda for today's class is to have a small introduction to dynamic programming, the 4 general steps that we follow in any dynamic programming algorithm, and the problems which we will be learning under dynamic programming. And I would like to introduce one of the algorithm which is so called as Warshaw's algorithm today's class. Okay, so as I told you, this dynamic programming is similar to divide and conquer. Can anybody tell me what is divide and conquer? As you all know, it is quite similar to divide and conquer. So what is divide and conquer? As you all know, it is an approach which will solve the problem. How? By dividing the problem into the sub-problems. And then what do? We solve these sub-problems and then combine the solutions of the sub-problems. Isn't it so? So we divide the problem into sub-problem, solve them recursively. So you all know divide and conquer, it will be recursive version, and we combine the solution of the sub-problems. But then dynamic programming is slightly different to this. How is it different? I told you it is similar but not the same. So what happens in divide and conquer here is, in divide and conquer, we divide the problem into independent sub-problems. Keep that in mind. Independent means to say every sub-problem is independent of other sub-problem. Nowhere they are dependent. Suppose say I have a problem divided to sub-problem 1, 2, 3. For example, sub-problem 1 is independent of 2 and 3. Isn't it? 2 is also independent of 1 and 3. So they are not dependent. It is not like to get sub-problem 3 answer or the solution, sub-problem 1 and 2 has to be solved. Not required. Isn't it? So they were all independent. You can solve the problem independently. And then what do? I combine their solutions to solve the original problem. But then dynamic programming is quite different in this case. It also divides the problem into sub-problems, but the sub-problems are now dependent. What do you mean by dependent? Sub-problems are dependent means they try to share the solution of other sub-problems. That means to say that if I want to solve sub-problem 2, I need the solution of sub-problem 1. Like that. Right? To solve sub-problem 3, I may need the solution of sub-problem 2. So they are dependent. They are not independent. Okay? So dynamic programming is applicable only when the sub-problems are not independent. Means they are dependent. Are you understanding? Since this sub-problems are dependent in dynamic programming, I tell the sub-problems are overlapping. Overlapping. See, isn't it? To get sub-problem 2, I need the solution of sub-problem 1. So sub-problem 2 is overlapping sub-problem 1. Isn't it so? They are called as overlapping. And since I need solution of sub-problem 1, right? To solve sub-problem 2, my sub-problem 1 has to be solved and I should keep the answer, isn't it? So in dynamic programming, what will happen is every sub-problem that you try to solve, right, will be solved and saves its answer in a table. So there will be one table. So what is a table? Table here is like an array. That's all, right? So I'll just store there. So every time I solve a sub-problem, I will save it in a table. Why should I save? Because I don't know which sub-problem might need the solution of this solved sub-problem. I don't know. So I will store it somewhere so that it can be reused by other sub-problem. Isn't it? And that technique of saving the answer in a table is called as memoization. So don't think I have put a spelling mistake here. It is called like this itself. Okay. Memoization it is called. Okay. Storing the solution of a sub-problem, right, in a table so that we need not have to redo the task of solving the same instance of the sub-problem is encountered. So I can reuse the solution. I need not have to again recompute it. Whenever it is required, I can simply use the answer. Are you understanding? So this is how the dynamic programming works. So very easier thing. It is very easy to tell what is a dynamic programming. It is a programming approach or a design approach wherein it divides a problem into dependent subproblems. Dependent, wherein each subproblem will be dependent on solution of other subproblems. Solution, remember solution, right? And these solutions of every subproblem will be solved and kept it in a table, the answer, so that it can be reused. Are you understanding? So this dynamic programming approach again is applied to optimization problems. So you know what is optimization. Even greedy approach is also for following, or it is applied to optimization problems. What are these optimization problems? As I told you, in optimization problems, there are several possible solutions. So what are those possible solutions called, students? What are they called? The possible feasible solutions. And out of all the possible solutions, there is one solution called as an optimal solution. What is that optimal solution? Which will either maximize or minimize some objective function. Isn't it? Right? So the objective function here, as an example I have taken, each solution may have a value or a profit. And the task here is to find a solution with the optimal value or the profit. Okay. So that is the problem to which most of the time the dynamic programming will be applied. Okay. We'll see some of the examples. If you see, you will know how it is optimal. Okay. And most of the time, as I told you, the algorithm approaches will try to find out optimal. Feasible, we don't. We want always the optimal, isn't it? So if I ask you to reach from your place to the railway station, you will not take a route which is a longer one. There are several routes from your home to reach your railway station, isn't it? So you will take the route which is shortest one. So you always go the optimal. Isn't it? So anytime, any problem you take in your day-to-day life, you go for an optimal, not all the feasible solutions you will try and set. Isn't it? Same ways here, when we write an algorithm, we try to design the algorithm to obtain optimal solutions. So what is the 4 steps that usually any dynamic programming algorithm follows? So I'll just tell you, just listen. The first step is characterize the structure of an optimal solution. What is that meaning? So it sounds something different. What is this characterize the structure of an optimal solution? It means that you should get the structure to get the optimal solution. You all know that if I have to get the optimal solution, my problem has to be divided into sub-problems. Sub-problems have to be solved, isn't it, to get the solution to the original problem. Isn't it the same way as here? What does that structure mean here? It's very simple. Decompose the problem into smaller sub-problems. Yes, you decompose. And remember, the smaller sub-problems are dependent or Dependent or independent? In dynamic programming, it is dependent or independent? The subproblems. Can I have the answer? In dynamic programming, the subproblems are dependent or independent?
Dependent, ma'am.
Yes, they are dependent. Okay. They are all the dependent ones. Means to say, every subproblem will be dependent on the solution of the other subproblem. Okay. So what should I do in this step is find a relationship between the structure of the optimal solution of the original problem and the solutions of the smaller subproblems. So what I'll do in this step 1 is I'll divide the problem into subproblems. Later I'll find out how do I get the optimal solution of the original problem by getting the solutions of the smaller subproblems. So I should find one relation. What is that relation? I'll have to find. Because using the solution of subproblems only, you will get the solution of the original problem. So you have to find a relation. Second step is, after finding the relation, how do I get? I should recursively define the value of the optimal solution. Means to say, I should express the solution of the original problem in terms of optimal solutions for the smaller problems. So I should recursively define. So I should either tell how do I get the solution of the original problem in terms of optimal solutions for smaller problems. How do I obtain? Should I draw a recursive algorithm or should I write some recursive definition? So all these things will be done in step 2. Getting? The next step 3 is, right now you have divided the problem into subproblem. You found out the relation between the subproblem solution and to get the optimal solution of the original problem. So how do you solve it? You have to solve it, right? You told, okay, this is the relationship. This is how I should get. But how do I solve it? I have to solve and then get the answer, right? So I have table structure. So what is this bottom-up fashion means? It is saving the results of solving simpler problems. What I'll do? I'll take simpler subproblems, solve them and store the results in a table. Are you understanding? So bottom-up approach means from bottom you will go to the top. So bottom, the simpler problems I will solve first. I'll store it in a table. And later, these solutions will be used to, solutions to simpler problems will be used to compute the solution to the more complex one, to the next level, right? So here you use a bottom-up fashion of solving the problem and store it in a table, which is called as memoization, right? So that it can be reused. And after that, once your table is ready, your table will be ready, filling up all the results of the subproblems. Once the table is ready, from the table, you have to construct the optimal solution from the computed information. What is this computed information? Solution of all your subproblems. Are you understanding, right? So what do? We will construct the optimal solution for the entire problem from the computed values of smaller subproblems. So whatever you have solved, which is stored in the table, I will get the optimal solution. Right? Fine. So this dynamic programming, actually the term is not from computer science. It is from control theory. It is a easy subject here. But what does this programming mean? Programming here refers to the usage of tables or the arrays to construct a solution. So in control theory, actually they use dynamic programming, wherein programming refers to what? construction of table to construct a solution, or using of a table to construct a solution. Are you understanding? Simpler terms if I have to tell, very simple. Divide the problem into sub-problems. Find the relationship between the solutions of sub-problems to get the solution of the original problem. Then solve all the sub-problems using what fashion? Bottom-up fashion. Solving simpler problems first, moving on to the next level, and storing it in a table. Once the table is ready, construct the final solution for the entire problem. 4 steps. Okay. So the problems into the dynamic programming which we will be seeing is about, we have 7 problems. One is Warshall's, Floyd's, 0-1 knapsack problem. So you know what is knapsack, and you know what is 0-1 means here, right? How to solve that. Then we have multi-stage graph problem. Then traveling salesman problem, Bellman-Ford algorithm, then optimal binary search tree problem. So we have 7 problems to deal in this particular module of dynamic programming. Okay. So moving on to the Warshall's algorithm. I'm just giving you the the introduction to it. What is this Warshall's algorithm? The Warshall's, Floyd, Bellman-Ford, they are all named after their inventors. They are all the names of the inventors there. Okay. So what does this Warshall algorithm do? Very simple. It computes something called as transitive closure of a directed graph. Just try to listen, students. It's called as transitive closure. What is this transitive closure? Anybody remembers the transitive property in mathematics? What is the transitive property, students? If A equals to B and transitive property. Anybody remembers? Does anybody remember the transitive property in mathematics? Students. Can I have it? Can I have the answer? If A equals to B and B equals to C, then what it implies?
A equals to C, ma'am.
Yes, that is transitive property in mathematics. But here it is computing transitive closure. Okay, what is the transitive closure you have to know? All right. So before we go for what is transitive closure, let me tell you what is this directed graph, right? So you all know graph. Graph is made up of vertices, edges, right? And you have weighted edges, non-weighted edges, right? And you have directed edges. Directed edges means there's a direction between the, direction given for the edges. So when I give direction, I can easily identify for an edge, which is the source, which is the destination, vertex, isn't it? So given a directed graph, how do we represent? That's very important. Why? Because program I cannot draw nodes, edges. So I should represent the directed graph using one of the representation, so called as adjacency matrix. So what is this adjacency matrix? It is a table format, right, which has certain rows and numbers. And what is that row? It is n cross n. Now rows is also n, column is also n. Right, where what is it n? Number of vertices. Fine. So I'm just giving you an example here. So this is your graph, a directed graph. You can see the graph which I'm showing, all the edges are being directed. So I have to draw one adjacency matrix for this. So how many rows, how many columns will I take? What is the size of my adjacency matrix, students? Size. How many rows, how many columns? Quickly, for this graph. The adjacency matrix is of what size? For this graph, what is the size of the adjacency matrix? Can anybody answer me? Janvi?
4 cross 4, ma'am.
4 cross 4. So it is of matrix of size 4 cross 4. So I have used the symbol A. Here I use the symbol G. So G is a common symbol for graph. Okay. And A is a common symbol for the adjacency matrix. It is 4 cross 4. You can observe the columns and the rows. Just observe they are named with the vertices. And do not name them in the haphazard order. It should be in the alphabetical order or the numerical order. Sometimes it is numbers, sometimes it is alphabets. Okay. And how do you number this matrix? It's a Boolean matrix. Your adjacency matrix is always a Boolean matrix wherein it has either 0 or 1. So you all know, when do I write 0? When do I write 0, students? When do I write 0? Why do I write A to A, it is 0? Students.
There is no edge directed from A to A, ma'am.
Yes, A to A. So 0, when there is a edge between the vertices I, j. 1, if, sorry, 0 if there is no edge between the vertices I, j. 1, there is a edge between the vertices I, j. So you can see A to C, there is an edge. So I put 1. You can observe this, right? B, respect to C, B to A, there is a edge. B to D, there is a edge. So B to A is 1, B to D is 1. The rest is 0. So how to fill this? Again, don't get confused. Take every vertex, check which edge it is having. There you put 1. The rest all will be 0. That's how you can compute. B, then take C. From C, there is no edge from C. All are 0. From D, you can observe there is an edge from D to B. That's all. D to B is 1. The rest is 0. So you should fill it row wise. Don't fill it column wise. Right? This is the representation of a directed graph. Now, let me tell you what is transitive closure. So what is this transitive closure? Is nothing but the path matrix of a graph. What is the path matrix? As the name indicates, path matrix means, again, it is a Boolean matrix of size n cross n, where it's a Boolean. So it is 1 and 0, where 1 indicates what, students? There exists a path from node I to j. Path. It is not edge. It is a path. 0 indicates there is no path. Fine. So I'll also give the same graph. Now I have to generate the transitive closure. So I give the naming as T, or it is also called as path matrix P. Again, tell me the path matrix or the transitive closure is of what size? How many rows and how many columns? Students. The matrix is of what size here also? Again, it's what size? 4 cross 4. It is of size 4 cross 4, as we have 4 vertices. Now, we put 1 when there is a path. 0 when there is a no path. Okay. Now tell me, consider the vertex A. Is there a path from A to A? Hope you know what is a path. Path means it is a sequence of edges where source and the destination is the same. There should be a path. Source and destination, I can reach through sequence of edges. May not be same. Source and destination may not be same. Through sequence of edges, I can reach the destination vertex. Is there a path from A to A, students? Just see and tell me, is there a path from A to A? Students, yes, no. Is there a path? Ranjit?
No, ma'am.
No. A to B? Is
No,
there a
ma'am.
path? No. A to C?
It's there, ma'am.
It's there. And that path is a single edge. No problem. That's not a problem. So you can have a single edge. From A to D?
No, ma'am.
No. Right? So you have to construct the path matrix in this way. A to A, 0. A to B, 0. A to C, edge. A to D is 0. Take to B. B to A. Is there a path, students? B to A. Is there a path? Yes or no? Yes. B to B. Is there a path? B to B. Can I have am I having a path from B to B?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How was that path? Can anybody tell me which edges form the path? Which of the edges?
B to D, B to B.
B to D, again D to B. Yes, it's one. See the difference. Okay. B to C, is there a path? Yes. The edges which make up the path from B to C? Which are the edges? Students.
B to A to C, ma'am.
C, right? Somehow have to reach the destination vertex through sequence of edges. So it can be an edge also, a single edge or multiple edges. Okay, similarly from B to D. You can observe, yes, you have an edge only, so not a problem. C, no path to any of the vertices. Coming to D, is there a path from D to A? Path from D to A?
Yes, ma'am.
D to B, then B to A. Then D to C, sorry, D to B. D to B, there is a edge. Yes. D to C. D to C. Is there a path?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which edges form the path for me?
Ma'am, D to B, B to A to C.
Yes. So I put 1. Similarly, D to D. Yes. D to B, B to D. So this is the path matrix. And to obtain this path matrix, I have to use the algorithm Warshells. This I wrote because looking at the graph I wrote. But when I have to write a program, I have to use some algorithm. And that algorithm is my Warshells algorithm. Are you all understanding? Yes. So you can see this is a graph given to you. So I want you all to construct 2 matrices. Which are the 2 matrices? Which are the 2 matrices that you have to construct? First, you should construct which matrix? Which matrix? Students, quickly, to wind up. You have to construct first the adjacency matrix. You know what is adjacency matrix? And adjacency matrix is a Boolean matrix of size 4 cross 1, wherein it gives 1 if there is an edge between I to J, 0 if there is no edge. And you will also construct what matrix? A path matrix. Path matrix is 1, where 1 is given if there is a path, 0 if there is no path. So take this example, construct both the matrices, right? Okay. So I've already given, but you construct. So here the Warshells, as I told you, it is used to compute the transitive closure. Transitive closure is nothing but the path matrix. What is a path matrix? A Boolean matrix of size n cross n, where n indicates there is a path between I and j, 0 indicates no path from I to j. So mathematically, if I have to write what is a path matrix, I'll write like this. P of ij is equal to 1 or 0 if there is no path from I to j, 1 if there is a path from I to j. So mathematically, you will have to define the path matrix. Okay. So I think this way we'll see it in the next class. Yes. Thank you, students. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay. No doubts? I'll have to take attendance. You have to wait for some time. You have any doubts, students? No doubts? Okay. Tell me the difference between, okay, dynamic programming is similar to which approach? Quickly, give me the answers in the chat box. It is divide and conquer, similar. Okay, what is the difference between divide and conquer and dynamic programming? In divide and conquer, sub-problems are
Independent.
independent, yes. In divide and conquer, it is what? In divide and conquer,
Independent.
independent. Whereas in dynamic programming, it is
Dependent.
dependent. That means sub-problems are dependent on the solution of other sub-problems. Okay. So in dynamic programming, what does programming mean for me? It is not programming what you have thought. What does programming mean for me? Any answers? Computing. Okay. After computing, what do you compute? Okay. Construction of a table. Very good. What does a table contain? What does a table contain? Construction of a table. What is the table?
Solutions of sub-problems.
Sub-problems. Yes. The table, I will get the solution to the problem by constructing a table. And what is the table containing? Solutions of the sub-problems. And what is that called as? Saving the solutions is called as what? What is that mechanism called as? Memoization. It is called as the memoization. Very good. Very good. Okay. Can anybody tell me what does Warshill's algorithm compute? What does it compute?
Ma'am, transitive closure of a directed graph.
What is the transitive closure? What is the transitive closure? Okay,
Path
transitive
matrix of the
a directed graph. Okay. So what is a path matrix? Last question for you all. What is a path matrix? It is a Boolean matrix of size in cross n,
ma'am.
where 1 indicates,
That there is a path, ma'am.
yes, 0 indicates there is no path. Okay. What is the difference between adjacency matrix and path matrix? One, in adjacency matrix, one you write when there is a
Directed edge, ma'am.
edge. Whereas in there, you write 1 when there is a path. Yes, students. Yes. Okay. Thank you all. You can quit. Anyways, I'll take the attendance from the Meet app itself. Okay. For those who have doubts, can stay back with respect to IA marks. Just quit. Thank you, students.